Harihi Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. ओम शिष्य आत्म समर्पण कार्पण्य दोषो उपहत स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्म सम्मूढ चेता यश्रेयस्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम् ओम. Welcome to another week's class. We are in the 28th Shloka of the second chapter in Bhagavad Gita. The Shloka goes like this. Avyaktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani bharata avyakta nidhananyeva tatra ka paridevana. So, we discussed at length about this shloka and the nuances in this shloka. We saw that though this shloka on the face of it is a simple one, it carries a very deep contemplation which gives us a basic analysis that one can perform about what this life form is. In this, we had discussed about the Atma Anatma Vivekam, but what we have not yet done is Ekattva Siddhi. That there is a concept called Atma was established in our discussions last week. Today, we are going to see that it cannot be many. It can only be one. As always, if we start with a direct Upanishadic quote, we have several of them. Ekameva advitiyam. Right? This is Brahman is one. It is what it said in Chāndogya Upanishad. Right? Sadeva Saumya idamagra asid is the way that it goes. Right? That Ekameva advitiyam is an upadesh that was given by Uddalaka, who is the father of Shvetaketu, to Shvetaketu. It's a very beautiful story wherein Shvetaketu comes back after his Vedic classes, attending 12 years with so much of knowledge and a lot of pride that comes with acquiring the knowledge. At that time, the Brahma Upadesh was given by Uddalaka to Shvetaketu. The other one that we always talk about is Kaivalya Upanishad. Right? Here also it comes as Ekameva Advitiyam. Right? So it is not two is what is established in Kaivalya Upanishad, Chāndogya Upanishad, in Kathopanishad, or in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, as we can see. Eko Vashi Sarvabhuta Antaratma. Right? So there is only one Sarvabhuta Antaratma. Right? That is the way that Kathopanishad says. Then in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the most famous one is Neha Nana Nanasti Kinchana, is the way that it goes. So if for those who have a reverence of a Praman to Veda, we have a direct quote. For commoners, it is not necessary that Veda has a complete reverence. They may hold a reverence to Veda, but they may not see Veda as a Praman because they have not studied Veda. Alternately, there could be traditions which do not take Veda as a Praman. So we step into the logical analysis for that. Existence is not a quality or an attribute. It is the being of every entity. If one were to say there are many existences, it will be necessary to differentiate between one form of existence and the other form of existence. While this can be done at an object level, at the base, it will not be possible to establish a difference in the is concept of it. There is a mouse, there is a pen, and so on and so forth. We can continue to shine an object through the basis of existence, but the existence cannot be many. Even assuming if we have two existence, then this existence has to be different from this existence. And that is not possible, because the transformation can only happen to the object and not to the is, the existence. And hence the existence can only be one. This is a very simple, straightforward answer to why existence can only be one. Now, every assertion of differences, presupposes a commonness of being. That is the core in it. So Acharya puts it as, if existence were different in different things, the word is could not have a single meaning, but it does. Hence, the being is one. He just uses that example as how we are saying. So there is a mouse, there is a pen, there is a mic, there is a computer. That is the same. It cannot be different. Right? It is the same. If it is the same, then it cannot be attributed as many. It can only be one. Right? This comes as part of Brahma Sutra Bhashyam from Shankaracharya. Very beautiful analysis, all of them. Right? When we go into those kind of analysis, it just opens up your mind in terms of how alert it becomes to understand things so quickly. There is Avantara Palam. Right? But the beauty is the existence is one, cannot be overruled at all in logic as well. Now, to recognize the consciousness, we saw that there were two properties, Sad and Chit. Right? So, to recognize many consciousness, the Chaitanya, there must be a knower common to all. Otherwise, how would one even know that there are many? Does it make sense? If I have to say that there are multiple consciousness, then there has to be one that identifies those multiple consciousness as well. Right? So, first thing is, we cannot have multiple consciousness because that consciousness can only be one. The awareness that apprehends supposed multiplicity must itself be one and indivisible, is the way the philosophers speak about it. Consciousness is self-luminous. Swayam prakashaha is the way that we say it. It illuminates all objects, including the thought. Right. So there is a very beautiful Upanishad that goes like, if there is no sun, then moon shines the light. If there is no moon, the stars may shine the light. If it is not there, the fire will shine the light for you. If the fire is also not there, then your, inner experiences will shine that particular light. Right? In whatever form, it will shine that particular object. So where is that inner, how is that inner thing does? Then they say it is swaprakasha, swayam prakasha. right? So the beauty is that awareness does not require any other support to illumine itself. Now, if there are two self-luminous consciousness, then it is not possible, because you will be able to actually identify the two, right? So two self-luminous consciousness cannot coexist in one experience, right? If it does, then that it would require a third consciousness to relate it to them. Therefore, consciousness as such is an indivisible unit. That is what the analysis brings out to us. Plurality implies a boundary, right? So the consciousness versus that consciousness, there are two, but both boundaries are known only within the consciousness, not outside of it. Hence, conscious cannot be limited. It is one continuum in which all limitations are imagined, are put in place. So, Shankaracharya summarizes this in Bhagavad Gita Bhashyam 13.2. Right? So, that is the Kshetram. That is what he starts talking about. So, there he gives an inner meaning into this as well. So basically, the consciousness that illumines all bodies is one. Apparent multiplicity arises through the association with diverse upādhi, which is body and the mind. Right? So various means are there. There will be multiplicity that can be thrown into it. I have a torch. I can show the light in all the directions, on all the objects, but that light is only one. That is the main essence that we get out of it. So when we talk of Atma, we generally tend to say his Atma, my Atma, their Atma, and so on. In a Vyavaharika world, that is what we do. The awareness that this Gita Upadesham brings to us is that the awareness can only be one. It is not you versus me, etc. It's oneness. That oneness to be realized is what the moksham is all about. If you take the next one, what we call as Karana Karya Ananyatvam, right? That if a cause and effect, if the universe arises from Brahman, the effect cannot be essentially different from its cause. Okay, very yeah, looks like a lot of words, but the fact is, it is all known to us. If I have a wooden table, it cannot be anything other than the wood, the property of the wood in that table. Right? So the cause and effect actually emphasizes this. I have a metal, and I cannot assume it will not give me an electric shock if I'm going to put it, because the metal will transfer that. So here, the thing that we need to learn is a property of whatever the source that we are taking to form an object. That object will carry the property of that source. The example that is often given in this parampara or in most of the Vedantic study is like the clay and the pot. Pot is only a nama rupam, a name and a form of the clay. The existence actually is the clay, not the pot. The clay in a specific form is what is a pot. Therefore, the many represents only the names and forms upon one's existence, not another existence. Right? This is also called as Satkaryavadam. right? The logic comes from the Chāndogya Upanishad 6:1 to 6:3. Yet again, there is a very beautiful bhashyam on this by Shankaracharya. Right? That is a place where the true Upadesha, etc. starts in Chāndogya Upanishad. There is a lot of, uh, exercises that can be done, upasana, before it gets into the core of the Vedanta. Right. Here is where the core of the Vedanta starts, and that is how the presentation is done in Chāndogya Upanishad. Moving further, experience. It is our experience. So beyond all these things, what is our experience? Every conscious experience confirms unity. There are many thoughts, but the awareness is exactly the same. Awareness that illumines those thoughts is exactly the same. Right? The background I am never divides, even as experience changes. The I is the constant. The thing that changes are merely the experiences. So all those experiences, what we do, we put an aspect of Sat into it. We put an aspect of truth into it. When we remove the truth from such experiences, which is transient in nature, and bring the Sat onto the experiencer, and realize that this experiencer is one and only one. That is what the true realization is. Shankaracharya in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, in his Bhashyam, he says, the one consciousness that witnesses waking, dream, and sleep is the same. Right? So this proves two things. See, the persona in each of the state is different. Right? So we use the term, there are several personas that are identified with each of the avastha. Vishwan is associated with, wake up, Jagrat. In the Swapnam, which is the dreaming state, it is called as Taijasan. The persona changes. The reason why we say it is, in this Taijasan example is much more easier. Say that I am like, eating a very, very wonderful royal food in my sleep. But when I wake up, I am waking up hungry. That which I had has no effect on the other persona. Right? So the experience of Taijasan is not there in the experience of Vishwan. Right? So because of that, they are two different personas, but the experience is of that of mind, that I continues. That one consciousness, which is the witness of everything, is going to continue throughout. That constant is Atman. There are several such discussions, arguments, or there are several such analysis friends which conclude that the Brahman, the Atman, is Ekam. It is not two. And when you see it as two, remember you are in a Rajasic experience. Bhagavan will speak about it in the 18th chapter again. We just need to understand that there is an Atman. The Atman that we are talking about is the existence and the conscious principle. The existence and the conscious principle cannot be two. It has to be only one. It will give an experience of many, but the experiencer, the conscious principle, is always Ekam. It will be making sense in a in your buddhi, in your intellect, it will make sense. But to live based on that cannot happen. That I realize and live as the Atman, as the subject, is very difficult. Because that is why we say that, if your mind splits the Atma and the Anatma and takes Atma as I, then you are in the wrong path. So in our tradition, we establish, or we try to emphasize, that the moment you divide it, you have to divide it, because that is the only way your mind can grasp, your brain can grasp. Your brain has to, put things into objects, put things into specific squares to understand it. So it will naturally split the two, the Atma and the Anatma. What we want you to think on is this Atma is also including the Anatma. But this Anatma is merely an experience and not an existence of its own. This is the reason why Shankaracharya uses the term Mithya. And people make the same mistake of looking at Mithya as a mirage, separate from the truth. It is inclusive, it is existing, but it doesn't have an independent existence. And that is why it is not a Paramarthika Sat, it is a Vyavaharika Sat, and the Paramarthika Sat is the Atma, or the conscious principle, with the Anatma, which has a dependent existence on the Atma. When you start learning it like this, the difference totally evaporates. There cannot be a time when I see you as different from that of me, my daughter and their daughter. I cannot see like that. It is daughter is daughter. Okay, it is again a Vyavaharika world, but that is the way it is. There will be a total equality on everything that you see. Right? And we will see how many times Bhagavan will emphasize this. Right? Throughout Bhagavad Gita, there are several shlokas where he emphasizes this, repeats it. Shunichaiva swapakesha, right, is the way that he puts it. Panditaha samadarshinaha, right? Samalosthana kanchana. He everywhere he will use and he will emphasize this, that this equality in your vision should be the outcome of your true jnanam. The Ātma-jñāna is based on this equality of vision. If that equality of vision doesn't come, remember, you are in the transactional world. You're still within that same objects, which has no real existence, and you are thinking that is the existence. So, moving on, in Bhashyam, Acharya puts it like this. He gives a mere meaning to start with, right? Beings like sons, friends, etc., who are really just aggregates of cause and effect. Karma is the thing that he puts in here. Before birth were unmanifest. At birth, they become manifest. And after death, again, they return to unmanifest. Right? So the simple one that Shankaracharya puts it here to begin with is beings, all the jivan. And see, yesham bhutanam putra mitradhi karya karana sangatmakanam is the way that he puts it. Right? So he gives that as an example for you to know that the difference, right? All of them have come from you only, right? Right? Putram, Putra particularly, is from you, right? So it is just another extension. That extension is what you need to see. Everything, all the objects are merely an extension of the core. That extension manifests, or it was unmanifested, it comes into manifestation, and they go back into unmanifested state. That is the way that Acharya gives the meaning for this shloka. Now, here, Shankaracharya gives the focus on Bhagavan emphasizing the meaning. Beings arise from unmanifest, exist briefly in the manifested world, and then return to the unmanifest after death. Very important one here, which is that beings which are coming into manifestation and going off, they are part of the same, what do you say, the object that we are talking about. The Atma and Anatma, they are part of the anatmic circle only. That is the realization that we have to put. The experiencer is the same, but the being which is together with the experiencer is the one that comes into the kind of states that here Acharya is talking about. And that is the root cause for all of the discussions which led to our analysis of this shloka. Shankaracharya gives a quote from Mahabharata itself. So even the Mahabharata in Strī Parva, that is the one where the women will grieve after the war. They would have lost so many people, right? So many families were kind of destroyed. When they are all grieving, that is the time this happens, where there is a emphasis that beings appear from the unseen and again merge into the unseen. Neither are they truly yours, nor are you theirs. Then why this meaningless sorrow? Right? That is what will be told in the Mahabharatam, Strī Parva. Right? I have quoted the shloka here. Adarshanaadhapatita punaschadharshanam gattaha nate tava na tesham tvam tatra ka paridevana. That is the way that it is said in Mahabharata. Right? And so this is what comes in the shloka number 8. However, Shankaracharya has quoted the shloka number 13 in the Strī Parva. Right? But the 13th shloka is a little different. Shokasthana sahasrani bhayasthana shatani cha. Right? It says there are thousands of sorrow and shatani, hundreds of fears, right? Divase divase moodam avishanti na panditam, right? So for this particular thing that keeps changing, there is no point. It is not considered to be wisdom by the panditas, by the pandit. Is the way that the 13th shloka goes. I just wanted to clarify it. Say, if you are looking up some of the book and you see the 13th shloka to be Adarshanada Patita, right? So if you see that shloka, then you are looking at the book that Shankaracharya has read. In the book that I have seen, it comes in a different shloka. So just wanted to let you know that it is in the book that I have read or I have gone through. It is the 8th shloka. I don't want to say I have read because I think I have only gone through it. Right. Now, tatra ka paridevana. In this context, tatra referring to beings who appear and disappear. What real sorrow ka paridevana is there? Or what use is lamenting or crying out? Kaha va pralapaha. is the way that he puts it. These beings were originally unseen, adrishtam. They became briefly seen, drishtah, and then they disappear, pranashta, just like illusions, or, it is bhranti is the word that he used. It is mistake in our perception. Their existence is always there. The problem is only when it is manifested, you experience that particular existence. Like right now in the house, let us say my daughter is not there. So can I say that my daughter doesn't exist? That will be a wrong thing. It is not in my experience of existence. That experience of existence is the emphasis that Shankaracharya gives in this point. Ityartah, right? Thus, there is no real cause for sorrow over living beings, bhuteshu. Right? So that is the explanation that Shankaracharya has given. After that, he introduces the 29th shloka. This Atma is difficult to comprehend. Durvigneyaha ayam is the way that he puts it. Right, ayam refers to this, as in the Atma is durvigneyaha. Right, it's very difficult to comprehend because it appears as the natural worldly self, prakrita Atma, mixed up with the body, sense and mind, etc. Right? Why would I, as in Krishna, blame only you, Arjuna, right? When the cause of confusion, Bhranti Nimitte, mistaking the body for the self, is common to everyone, sadharane. Now to explain how exactly the self is so hard to comprehend, Khatam Durvigneyaha, I am Atma iti, the teaching continues. Aha. Right? So the next shloka is to clarify this. And it's a very famous shloka. We will take one word and do a lot more of analysis in that as well. The shloka goes like this. Shloka number 29. आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम् आश्चर्यवद् वदति तथैव चान्यः आश्चर्यवच्चैव मन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वाप्येनं वेद न चैव कश्चित्. So this is a very important shloka for all of us. We may come across several situations where it may feel like, man, why is this so confusing? I just don't understand it. Maybe this is not for me, etc. There can be a lot of such apprehensions that come in the mind. Right? Some people will just, oh man, I don't even want to get into it, kind of a stuff. They try to push it away. The reason is it is so subtle, and people try to understand this as another subject. Right? When you come to learning Bhagavad Gita, like you have come to learn mathematics or physics or so on, then you are in a wrong place in itself. Bhagavad Gita is not an experience of knowing something. Bhagavad Gita is a mirror that shows yourself. The problem is, in my mind, I am thinking I'm like Amitabh Bachchan, looking so big and so on and so forth. But when I look at the mirror, I really know what I am. Right? That is what Bhagavad Gita does to you. It shows you what you are. The only difference is, in the example, I had shown a bigger image of myself, because that is the way we perceive in our mind. That is our common perception. So I use that as an example. In reality, it is aham vrikshasya reriva, that greatness of this Atman, that soul, that Atma that I am, that everything that I am is so beautiful that when you start learning, you will be amazed at how beautiful this concept is. It is addictive at one point in time. And then we have to overcome that addiction and become the witness and see the witness and realize that I am the witness. It's a beautiful exercise. And that is why we say that in life, this is an education where it continues forever. Now I am doing a pravachanam, but I also do shravanam. Without shravanam, I cannot be. It has to continue to exist. That shravanam is a constant exercise for the lifetime. Otherwise, the buddhi will naturally slip back. Right? So, keeping yourself into that exercise is what the learning is all about in terms of Bhagavad Gita. So, what Bhagavan puts it is in a nice way. He says, Ascharyavat pashyati. Ascharyavat is as though it is an ascharya, amazing, a rarity. Pashyati, seeing. So the concept that this is a beauty that is to be seen, that in itself is very rare. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidenam. Right, we will talk about it. Right, kaschit, someone, enam, this particular philosophy, literal meaning. We will talk about the depth of it later. Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah. Ascharyavat vadati. Now, there is someone who is speaking about it. Right? There may be 1,000 students, and it could be one who is able to reproduce it in a verbal form and translate it to others. It is that difficult. Right? Not everyone is able to express this understanding in a proper way. So, to see a person who is able to speak is also an ascharya. Ascharyavat chaiva manya shrunoti. Shrunoti is those who are listening. As you can see in this class itself, it is very rare that people will come. Right? Even for right the traditional ones, the number of people who come are less. In a traditional teaching sense, okay, if you have specific schools like Chinmaya or others where Bhagavad Gita is taught as a subject matter, is taught something like mathematics or English or what do you say, philosophy kind of a stuff, it is different. But as an Ātma-jñāna being taught and people coming to learn it will also be Āscharya. It will be a rarity. It will be an amazing thing. Then, last thing, Bhagavan, being Bhagavan, puts it in a very beautiful way. This should not be taken as a negative aspect. Rather, for those who see it, the mumukshu, for them, it is the most endearing statement which pulls them in. Right. So what Bhagavan says is, Shritva api enam, even though people listen to it, Vedana cha eva kaschid. Right. To understand what has been, what do you say, taught is a difficult or a rarity, is the way that Bhagavan puts it. As I said, this is not for putting you down in terms of wanting to learn it. It is to say that, hey, if you don't understand, don't be dismayed. It is a very promising thing, right? It is one of the learning that is very far away from one point of view, and it is the closest to you from the other. That is the way the teaching will go. Right, in Upanishads and other places, you will see that that is the statement that is told also. The Ātma-jñāna is a knowledge about myself, how close I am to me, right here. But if I have lost myself and I'm searching for me everywhere, how far I am? I don't know, it is countless, because no matter how many miles I travel, I will not be able to find myself unless I look into me. right? So where it is very close to you. But so long as you are looking outside, it is far away, right? That is the realization that we get out of Vedana Chayeva Kaschit, Shrutva Api Enam. So let us go into analysis. This shloka is considered to be one of the concluding shlokas by some of the traditions about Ātma-jñāna, right? Here we call it as Ātma-jñāna Mahima. This shloka is also from Kathopanishad, though it is put in a very different word. It comes in the first adhyaya, second valli, in the seventh mantra. Shravanayapi bahubhiryo na labhyah. So you will be able to understand it. It is that easy, right? Because most of the words are easy, straightforward one, right? Shravanayapi bahubhir yah na labhyah, right? Shrunvantopi bahavo yam na vidyuhu, right? So again, it is pretty easy, right? So the second line comes as the first line in Kathopanishad. Ascharyo vakta kushalosya labdha. Labdha is to get, right? The vakta, the one who speaks, is very difficult to get, right? Here the term kushalaha is used, an important one, right? To be able to speak this, there can be a lot of pravachan and other things that can be held. To analyze and present it in a way which can induce the thought in you is going to be rare. Right? I don't know how much I'm able to induce the thought in you. Maybe I come across as giving a lecture and you are trying to collect things and go, which means I'm not doing a good job. Right? The intent that I have in my mind is to trigger that process of analyzing, thinking, and letting the mind to expand. That is what the Kushalaha represents. In our tradition, we speak like that. Ascharyo Jnatha Kushala Anushishtaha. Right? So that is the simple one. That is again first line being put in Kathopanishad. Right? So there are three concepts and one conclusion. That is the way we see it. Concept number one is seer, as in one who is able to even see the existence of such a knowledge of the unified oneness. Right? That is the first concept. The second concept is, unless one is able to see, you cannot even express it. Right? So it is automatically, if the first one, the one who can see is rare, the second one is also rare. Then the third one is, when I'm going to speak or when anyone is going to express it, right, there must be somebody who listens to it, right? So such listeners are also going to be rare, as in the ones who take it. The conclusion is, even after listening to it, it is rare to find one who is able to grasp this difference. As I said, many people will go with Atma and Atma. I am the Atma. That is the thought that many people go with. The problem is to see that Ekattvam, right? That Advitiyam is a concept that needs to be nailed into one person. Ascharya word. The term Ascharya is repeated, right? This is to emphasize the reducing numbers, right? So, say there are 100 people who are able to see, only 20 will be able to express and only 10 will be able to listen to it. Right? So that is the way that, we express it. In tradition, we say the awareness of the concept remains constant. Right? So it is a very interesting way that we put it, to say that, hey, no matter, say for example, the population of the world is 1,000 and there are 100 people who are able to take to this path, right? So again, you can just reduce it to the numbers. But because the number of people is going to increase, that will once again spread, and spread. Right? That 100 will continue to remain as a 10%. And tomorrow, if in case there are 2,000 people, there still will be 200 people. Is the way that we try to say, as an assertive aspect, to say that, hey, this is not something like a lost science as per Bhagavan also. It is going to be a science which continues forever. And it has been continuing for thousands of years. So it is definitely continuing. Going further. Okay. There is one thing that we always talk about in Ascharya. So when we talk about this particular shloka, there are two aspects to it. One is bodhana and another is acquisition, acquiring. Right? So the Ātma-jñānam is considered to be durbodhatvam, difficult to be comprehended. And Guru-Śiṣya Anugraham is finding the right Guru who is explaining this in the manner which is reaching you. Say, for example, you may come and say that, hey, Naresh, the way that you explain is the best in the world. There is no one else who can explain it like this. The truth is, this will not be understood by another person. On the other hand, say Ravi Bhaiya speaks about it, and you say, yeah, Ravi Bhaiya is not really doing a good job of explaining, not as good as what Naresh does, for example. Then Ravi Bhaiya is talking to somebody else. Say he is talking to Jyotiji. Jyotiji may say, I don't know what Naresh talks. Naresh uses too much of words, I just get confused. But Ravi Bhaiya does an awesome job. Right? We need to understand that this communication is a two-way stream. What is applicable to you with respect to the Guru is not the same thing which is applicable to another person. Right? The Durlavatvam is something that we speak about to say that the Guru Śiṣya Anugraham is Durlabhatvam. Once you get a place where you are able to receive this particular gyan from somebody, then I would say, hold on to the best. And if you find someone who is better, go. Right? The idea is to hold on to the knowledge and be in the cycle of this particular Atma-jñāna, not the bondage to somebody. Right? So Durbodhatvam it's a difficult concept for anyone to communicate, no doubts about it. Durlabhatvam is something that we all need to know. We have been blessed with somewhere where we were able to get this particular gyan and we are able to pass it on. Right? So it comes all the way from Sadashiva Samarambha. Right? That is where we start. Or if you want to talk about Lord Krishna, the reason why we are going to Sadashiva Samarambham and not Lord Krishna is because Lord Krishna himself has taken the Upanishads and given it to us. Right? From there he has taken. Right? So it is anything that teaches this Atma-jñāna for us is Upanishad. Right? So that is something that we have to keep in mind. Now, let us analyze the term Āscharya applying to the Ātma-jñāna. This, I got it from the internet. Phenomenological structure of experience. I like that word, so I thought I'll just use it. Right? How do we experience things? We develop an understanding or knowledge and apply that knowledge or understanding to something that we witness and gain as an experience. Right? This is the normal thing that we do. Right? So, what is a knowledge? Say, for example, I have the knowledge of how to use this water bottle. Right? Now, how to use this water bottle is a knowledge that I got, and I apply that knowledge or understanding to something that I witness. And if there is another water bottle is coming, I am able to get that particular ability to drink the water. A child doesn't know what to do with this, right? So it hasn't learned about the water bottle. And this we can see in a normal tap that we operate, right? Going into the airport, I don't know what to do. The water is not coming, right? I'm putting my hand under it, that, this, and all those things. It is not working, right? And there is going to be one person who comes and taps on the top, and he's washing his hands and going away. That is what the knowledge gaining experience that we have, right? There is an experiencer and a situation in ideal state. There is something which is uncommon, asadharanam, and then I wake up. That experiencer wakes up. They witness that particular change, and from that change, we gain an experience. Again, as I said, I may be using a lot of words, but they are important. I go into a store, I walk around. How many products are there? Say about 10,000, right? Say I go into Walmart, there are about 10,000 products. I walk around. How many I pick? 10 at the most. Others, I don't even look at it, and they don't even attract my eyes. I would have gazed through it, but I would have just moved on. It wouldn't have even gotten registered into me. The experiencer comes up when there is something which is asadharanam that is witnessed. That is one concept that we need to understand. This is what we call as an experience. This asadharanam differs by desham, kalam, and vastu. Now, Shastra puts it as Purushaha, the drashta, is ever present, is a potential witness. Prakriti are the Vishayaha, right? The situation, the object, experience, etc. It is something which is a dynamic environment. When there is an asadharana vritti, right? When there is some kind of a stimulus that triggers, this will cause an attention. This triggered through a means of knowledge, perception, inference, comparison, etc. That is into Chaitanya Pratibhimbam. It's the illumination. Awareness lights up the change, producing an experience in you. Okay. This is again a very interesting and a very beautiful concept. It is not wrong that we can come back to the same slide again, and we can continue this in our next class. Harihi Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnad Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.